Colombia has taken its fight against the ANC to new heights with a brand new Latin American pro-West alliance emerging. In recent days, I released a video explaining how Colombia has a new president, and this new president has decided to create a complete foreign policy shift for the country. And one of the biggest moves that he created in recent days is that he actually decided to withdraw Colombia from South Africa's ICJ case against Israel. Now, what's really interesting about this move is that Colombia was not only an important signatory on the side of South Africa, but also happens to be the co-chair along with South Africa of the Hague Group, which is a lawfare group against Israel. And so this was a massive blow to the ANC's global power. But now, Colombia has decided to intensify their fight even more, deciding to actually close their embassy in South Africa in what is probably its boldest move to date. And beyond that, what we are now seeing is the emergence of a pro-Israel, pro-America Latin American alliance. And what this really means for the ANC is that their international reputation is heading to an all-time low and could, in fact, together with their diminishing local support, lead to the end of the party as we know it. But before I get into all of this, could I please remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already? It's completely free to do, and all you've got to do is click on the subscribe button below the video. If you would like to enjoy additional perks such as members-only videos and support the channel, you can do so by becoming a Power Club member. All you have to do is click on the join button below. Now let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is look at how Colombia decided to cut off South Africa. And as explained in this article, Colombia's president-elect, Abelardo de Espriella, announced that the country has closed 14 embassies and 15 consulates. He also pledged to sever diplomatic relations with Cuba and Nicaragua and redirect budget cuts towards security and public investment after taking office on August 7th. And it's very important for us to note that Cuba and Nicaragua seem to be going in that similar policy direction to South Africa, whereby they're aligning with more socialist and global South countries. There will be no ties whatsoever with tyrannies in my government, de la Espriella said, referring to Cuba and Nicaragua, two governments that have maintained close relations with outgoing President Gustavo Petro. And what's really important for us to note is that Petro is a socialist, he's far left, and he's super anti-Israel and pro-ANC. And so you can see how de la Espriella is really trying to do something similar to what other Latin American countries such as Argentina have done, where he is saying we are going to be pro-Western, pro-Israel, pro-America, and really align ourselves with the free world. The president-elect said Colombian embassies in Algeria, Azerbaijan, Barbados, Cuba, the Czech Republic, Ethiopia, Ghana, Haiti, Hungary, Malaysia, Nicaragua, Romania, Senegal, and South Africa would be closed. He also announced the elimination of 15 consulates, although he did not immediately specify their locations. De la Espriella stressed that aside from Cuba and Nicaragua, Colombia would maintain diplomatic relations with all other countries affected by the restructuring. Consular services for Colombian civilians abroad would continue through neighboring embassies or alternative diplomatic offices, he said. So as we can hear, Colombia will maintain diplomatic ties with South Africa, and so they are not cutting off the ANC just yet. However, one has to question why they've taken this move to actually close the embassy in South Africa. And this article from Town Press could shed a little bit more light on that issue. So what Town Press explained is that yes, the move does mark a significant shift in Bogotá's foreign policy. However, it also explains that the incoming administration intends to reduce diplomatic spending and realign international priorities toward what it describes as historic alliances. So there are going to be some people who might say, listen, this isn't because Colombia is against South Africa. It just happens to be a spending cut. But one also has to ask themselves why. Why cut ties, or rather, let's say, cut down spending with South Africa when there are many other countries in the world? And the second part of the sentence explains, because ultimately they're looking to realign themselves with their traditional allies. So the United States, Israel, and the West. It explains that the closure of South Africa's embassy is expected to reduce Colombia's diplomatic footprint on the continent, and that the president-elect stated that savings generated from these closures will be redirected to domestic priorities such as healthcare, education, security, and infrastructure. A further review of remaining diplomatic missions is scheduled for his first 100 days in office. So again, they're talking about the financial consequences, but I think it will be very interesting for all of us watching this video to have in mind how many different members of the media in South Africa might decide to portray this development. A lot of them might decide to lean heavily on the financial aspect, saying, oh no, listen, Colombia doesn't have a problem with South Africa, everything's fine, they're just focusing on finances. But, as those of you watching this video will know, this is not the full story, and that the ANC's destructive foreign policy agenda is contributing to this issue. I then want us to shed light on the greater strategy at play. You see, while Colombia is distancing itself from South Africa, they're doing a lot to strengthen their relationship with Israel. And as we can see in this article from JNS, De La Espriella has just been inaugurated as the new president of Colombia, and he decided to meet with Israel's foreign minister, Gideon Saar, and you can see the two pictured right here in this photo. So what's really interesting is it explains here how Saar was invited to a private meeting and a lunch at De La Espriella's office in Barranquilla. The talks lasted nearly 3 hours and focused on practical steps to strengthen bilateral, diplomatic, security, and economic cooperation, according to Israel's foreign ministry. And what I particularly found interesting is how in Saar's announcement on X, he said the golden age in relations between Colombia and Israel begins today. And so he is very confident in the ability to once again mend ties between the countries. What's also really interesting is how Saar thanked the president-elect for his decision to relocate Colombia's embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. And for those of you who watched the previous video on the subject, that is something we discussed as well. You have laid a brick in the walls of Jerusalem, Saar told him. And so what can we actually gather from all of this? What we can understand is that the Colombians have realigned their foreign policy strategy. De La Espriella has decided to do a complete reversal on what the previous president, who was very socialist and left-leaning, decided to do. And in doing so, he has severely crippled the ANC. You see, Colombia was not only the co-chair of the Hague Group along with the ANC, but they also happened to be a key ally in the ICJ case against Israel. And now they've completely flipped, making sure to build a stronger relationship with Israel than ever. So much so that they are even going to relocate their embassy to Jerusalem. What's more, this seems to be a part of a much bigger strategy that's unfolding on the international stage. You see, if we zoom out for a moment and look at Latin America as a whole, we are seeing a massive rightward shift in the politics there. We're seeing how countries such as Argentina, Paraguay, Chile, El Salvador, Costa Rica, and of course, Colombia have decided to elect right-wing governments, kicking out the previous left-wing governments, while once again shifting focus to repairing ties with the United States and the free world. And of course, this includes Israel. And as these countries continue to befriend Israel, we're seeing how so many of them are leaving the side of the ANC and weakening the ANC's foreign policy position. We've also seen how the likes of Honduras and Bolivia are no longer interested in fighting with Israel, and they too, much like Colombia, have withdrawn their support for South Africa in the ICJ case. And so what this ultimately shows us is that the ANC is getting weaker and weaker, losing its international support and electoral support in South Africa, and that its days are truly numbered. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more content. Until next time, I'm Matthew Cohen, and this is the Power Pod.